will move forward to the council meeting for Wednesday, March the 9th, 2016 for considerations. Mr. Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Through the chair, there are 2 changes to the agenda. Added to item 9.1 is a petition respecting City Housing Hamilton 555 Queenston Road area flooring replacement, and that's containing 101 signatures. Added as item 10.1 is a notice of motion by Councillor Sam Marula respecting Pickleball Canada's proposal to build, support, and promote a pickleball facility at Confederation Park Sports Complex.
You've heard the changes of the agenda. May I please have a motion to approve the agenda as amended, moved by Councillor Partridge, seconded by Councillor Johnson. All those in favor? Carried. Are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Partridge.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to let everybody know that I need to leave here by 2:30 to get to another committee meeting, which is outside the building. Thank you.
I'd also like to recognize Councillor Pearson, who will be joining us today. She has great interest in hearing the Rolston Neighbourhood presentation. So citywide buy-in, and a shout out to Councillor Pearson for joining us today. May I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 8th, 2016 Emergency and Community Emergency. We've moved by Councillor Johnson, seconded by Councillor Whitehead. All those in favor? Carried. Delegation requests being none, we'll now move on to item 5.1, which are the minutes of the Seniors Advisory Committee. Please note that they are listed in alphabetical order, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. May you please have a motion to approve them all. Moved by Councillor Partridge, seconded by Councillor Whitehead. Councillor Jackson.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just want to bring to committee's attention, I support moving all the minutes for the record. On E, November the 6th, on page 8, as you know, Council will be putting together its shopping list for the new federal government's infrastructure program in the next little while. And on behalf of Councillor Brenda Johnson and myself, who are your appointees to the Seniors Advisory Committee, we asked the seniors for what they felt would be priorities that Council should consider and deliberate over as we put our final list together. And they came down to the roads, sidewalks, formally send that out at the appropriate time on behalf of SAC. And also, Mr. Chairman, under F, December 4th, on page 4 of those minutes, I want to express on behalf of SAC how pleased they were. Initially, the $50,000 for the age-friendly initiative was not recommended, and this committee and council ultimately, and hopefully ratified Wednesday night, put forward the $50,000 for the age-friendly initiative, and SAC was extremely grateful. I just want to highlight those 2 matters. Thank you.
Excellent highlights, Councillor Jackson. We have a motion, and we have Councillor Partridge.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And on Friday morning, I had the pleasure of attending MPP, the Honourable Ted McMeekin's breakfast hosted for our citizens. And the Minister for Seniors Citizens was there, Mario Sergio, sorry. An announcement was made that there will be a seniors funding made available for 150 Canada celebrations, and that announcement may have just been made or will be coming out shortly. And I just wanted to make sure staff were aware of that they'd bring it to the seniors' attention, and it will be specifically for events by community groups for seniors, open for all municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we've heard the comments on all items from May to January. Councillor Johnson? It's already been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Carried. Outstanding. Now on to item 5.2, which is the access system for social housing. Councillor Jackson.
Mr. Chairman, I'm supportive of this. I'm, I guess, a little bit dismayed that 1 more year is required, because I've been one who has strongly supported, advocated for bringing the wait list in-house. And I'm reading staff's report that they need, it looks like, another year from, I think it was last June, about 9 months ago, that council provided this direction. So maybe a comment, please, from whoever, General Manager Priel or whoever can, or Carol Zolkheim or whoever can, Mr. Chairman. David Brodati. Okay, in Jillian's absence right now, Mr. Chairman, through you, just a comment. Again, I'm just, I guess, a little bit disappointed that a one-year extension is being requested of staff, because I would eventually like to see this brought in-house, but I guess staff have to review the upside and downside of doing that. Mr. Chairman, through you, please.
Thank you. Staff, you've heard the questions as presented.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so Councillor Jackson is correct that we are looking at the situation. The direction was to the model of bringing it in-house is one that we're working on, and so that's not really in question at this point. It's more around the logistics of doing that. There are some model implications in terms of making sure that we're addressing the needs of the people on the access to housing wait list, what type of case management, what type of supports we're going to be providing, and also the cost factors and the actual practical logistics around having the space and capacity to do that.
Thanks for that explanation, David. David, do you think then, hopefully, by this time next year, again, no guarantees in life, of course, or in politics, but Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Brodati, Dave, do you feel that hopefully by this time next year, a full report outlining the in-house options, the pros and cons of it versus status quo will hopefully be forthcoming, Mr. Chairman, because I'm a strong advocate, if everything's ideal circumstances, to bring this in-house. Mr. Chairman, through you to Dave for a final comment, please.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Absolutely. We will have this in place by the end of this year in terms of all those issues identified and the I's dotted and T's crossed.
Thanks so much, David. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Are there questions? If there's no further questions, I'd like to pass the chair. Pass the chair over, Councillor Johnson, if you would, please. Excellent.
Go ahead, Councillor Green.
So on page 205 of this report, there was a statement that there was a delay in gathering the information. I have a very specific question through you, Mr. Chair. Was it a delay in gathering the information our responsibility, or was it theirs in DMS?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the delay in gathering the information is around looking at the various enhancements to the model. So it wasn't in terms of the role of DMS. It was in terms of what we were looking at and the implications of it, and the best way to develop the right model, and what are the, as I said earlier, the cost implications, the capacity implications, and the logistical physical plant implications of all those approaches within the overall model of an in-house system.
And so through you, Mr. Chair, they've been cooperative, forthcoming with all information required to make necessary decisions?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that satisfies.
Take the chair back.
Sure,
Great.
if you'll give it. Thank you very much. So you've heard the report, CES 14052. If there are no other questions, may I please have a motion to approve item 5.2? Moved by Councillor Johnson, seconded by Councillor Jackson. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. On to item 5.3. It's the Gage Park Family Skills Park update, talking about the monitoring. We can have staff comment on that.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Our monitoring plan has been very successful. It's been a great collaborative with a number of different departments, police services, public health, public works, the local volunteers, and the community. We've even had buy-in from the tennis club helping out with this initiative. So it's been quite successful. We've had no negative response whatsoever, so it's been very, very well received. And in fact, the revolutions that we anticipated on the Skills Park were approximately 100 a day, and we're seeing 4,400 a day. The hours of operation are pretty much within scope of what we anticipated, so not a lot of night riding, which is good to hear, and no risk management issues to report, so very successful.
And if I could pass the chair over.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Johnson. I can say with full confidence through my own staff office, we have not had one complaint on this project. In fact, quite the contrary. And I just wanted to share this little story with you. About 2 weeks ago, I was walking through the park with my spouse and saw a fellow over there, looked like he was doing a little bit of work. And I went over to see what this fellow was all about, and he was in fact fixing some of the deficiencies caused by rain and moisture. And I asked him, I said, so what part of your neighborhood are you from? And he said, I biked over from Stony Creek. So here's a guy who biked over from Stony Creek with some tools to fix this, what has become a citywide initiative. Absolutely incredible multi-generational aspect as well as it relates to the older, riders kind of setting the culture and supporting the younger riders. All in all, a fantastic resident-led project coming out of Crown Point Youth Committee. We are so proud of it and so proud of the way that staff interacted with the community to be able to make this happen. So what a tremendous success story. 100 revolutions to 4,400 revolutions a day, which is revolutionary. Thank you. I did it. Thank you. I'll take the chair back before there's any more moans. So may I please have a motion to approve item 5.3, moved by Councillor Johnson, seconded by Councillor Partridge. All those in favor? Carried. On item 5.4, it's the Red Hill Family Center. It's a summary of the child care licensing requirements and recommendations. Are there any questions or discussion on this item? Seeing as though there is none, may I please have a motion to receive item 5.4, moved by Councillor Whitehead, seconded by Councillor Johnson. All those in favor? Carried. Excellent. On to item 5.5. It's the 2016 Provincial Child Care Funding Allocation for the City of Hamilton. If I could ask staff's indulgence, may I please have just a verbal update on this for the purpose of people waiting and what these implications are?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Annually, we receive our allocation from the Ministry of Education, and for the third straight year, we've been able to have an increase in our allocation, which has been really great news. So over the last 3 years, we've saw an increase of almost $6 million of 100% provincial funding for the allocation. When the responsibility for childcare moved over to the Ministry of Education, they underwent a review on the whole funding formula for municipalities. And since that time, we've been able to, as I said, we've been able to have increases year over year. Since 2012, we had a wait list for fee subsidies for families waiting for fee subsidies for childcare of about 2,200, and in part through this increase of dollars, we've been able to move to no families are on the wait list at the current time.
Can I pass the chair over just to Councillor Johnson? So just to get this clear, so from 2,200 to 0, we've eliminated the wait list in this space. Absolutely incredible work through you, Mr. Chair, to Grace and her staff. If I can ask, you're saying there's a year-over-year increased funding. What is that like in relationship? Did everybody broadly across the province get this increased funding, or how did Hamilton position itself vis-a-vis the other priorities provincial-wide?
When the Ministry of Education made the determination, they looked at a variety of factors. A lot of it was our population, it was our level of education, high school completions, it was our poverty levels, it was a variety of, and we're also a growing community. So based on that, there were winners and losers around the province, and we've been very fortunate to come out on the winning end of that as far as an increased amount of dollars for us to invest.
And certainly through you, Mr. Chair, as I'm to understand, at least with other provincial decisions that are made around budgets, certainly we have some of the key health indicators as you've identified, Grace, through you, Aidan, Councillor Johnson. But it must speak to the success and the capacity of our programs, and not necessarily just about the poverty levels and so on and so forth. If you can just maybe speak to how we were, successful in being able to deliver the service to reduce that wait list, I think it'd be well worth hearing.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we've been able to look at the variety of ways of also how we invest our dollars. We've had the latitude also with this new funding formula for much more flexibility in how we go about that. We've also put a lot of emphasis on making it affordable for all families, not just those under the fee subsidy umbrella. So we've had increased investments for wages for early childhood educators, for quality initiatives, for health and safety dollars. So it's been through those two avenues where we've been able to increase the quality across the board so that everyone can benefit from it. And so the province has been, they've always looked to Hamilton as a bit of a leader when it comes to the way we approach our planning for childcare and early years services.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Certainly a testament to the work that you're doing in that department, Grace, and the rest of your staff. Hats off to you. May I please have a motion to...
I'll give the chair back.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. May I please have a motion to approve item 5.5? Moved by Councillor Johnson, seconded by Councillor Whitehead. All those in favor? Carried. Now on to item 5.6, which is the Best Start funding. May we please have a verbal update from that file?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Last July, we brought a report to committee that indicated that the 2005 funding allocation that had been brought about with the Best Start initiative was coming to an end at that time. The notice was given in July for it to terminate at the end of March this year, and that was $1.3 million. In January, we were notified by the Ministry of Education that a portion of those dollars would be picked up by then. The previous allocation had been coming from the Ministry of Children and Youth Services. The work that we had been demonstrating all along under the initiative aligned with the direction that the Ministry of Education is going. We had invested our dollars to align with their Ontario Early Years Centres and the provision of service through those. So we are now able to continue with that investment through till the end of 2017 now.
Outstanding. Great. So are there any other questions on item 5.6, the Best Start funding? May I please have a motion to receive item 5.6? Moved by Councillor Partridge, seconded by Councillor Whitehead. All those in favor? Carried. We're now on to item 5.7, which is the provincial wage enhancement allocation. Are there any questions from staff or discussion? Councillor Whitehead? Moved by Councillor Whitehead, seconded by Councillor Partridge, and thirded by Councillor Marula. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. We're on to presentations, the moment we've all been waiting for. Item 7.1, we have the presentation of the Rolston Neighbourhood Action Plan, developed as a part of the Neighbourhood Action Strategy. We have presenters Jocelyn Strutt, James Muddle, Ryan Elliott, no? Mudda. You're right. Might have used it once or twice. And we also have Al Karsten. Have I left somebody off? No? John Sherman, of course, my good friend John. The floor is yours.
Oops. All right, perfect. Thank you very much for the introduction. Good afternoon, Chair, members of committee, staff, and members of the public. My name is Jocelyn Strutt, and I'm a project manager with the City of Hamilton's Neighbourhood Action Strategy. And I've had the privilege of working with this planning team and the many community partners over the last 18 months in the preparation of this plan. And we're very excited to be here to present it to you. As you are aware, the Neighbourhood Action Strategy began in 2010 in response to the Hamilton Spectator series that highlighted a number of inequities across the city and across our neighbourhoods that related to resident health and well-being. Rolston represents the 11th neighbourhood in the action plan that's been supported by the city, and it's the first plan that represents a mountain neighbourhood. Try not hurt anybody with this. Oh, sorry, Monica. So there's Rolston right up there. While developing the plan, the planning team took note of several health vulnerabilities, including child poverty rates, which were nearly double the citywide average, persons identifying as visible minorities, again, which was 10% higher than the citywide average, as well as the rising proportion of newcomers, which was more than double the citywide average. So Monica Mudda is going to speak to those in a little bit, but that highlights some of the need for the planning that took place in Rolston. So while the Rolston Neighbourhood Profile does provide some baseline information for the community, it didn't take into account other neighbourhood indicators of health, and those relate to community assets and the connections between neighbours. And that's what this process really helps create, support, strengthen, and grow within a community. Inclusion was also a significant theme within the Rolston planning team. And the team was very successful in engaging a number of diverse populations across the community, and that related to income, age, gender identity, status, race, and religion. And those are highlighted through direct projects of the planning team within the Neighbourhood Action Plan. But as part of the planning team goals, we're taking those efforts and trying to transfer those beyond just a project level commitment and transfer those to the team as a whole and engage more diverse populations within our planning team. In total, 18 planning teams were held over the last 15 months, and we've reached hundreds of residents as part of that work. 8 different community engagement events were held, as well as the start, which was the community movie night held by Councillor Whitehead. And at the Family Fun Fair and AGM, we had over 500 residents participate and have a great time. So I'm going to turn it over to members of the Rolston Planning Team who'll take you through the Neighbourhood Action Plan. And first up is John Sherman, co-chair of the Planning Team.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Indeed, I am John Sherman. I grew up in the Rolston neighborhood and am now a co-chair on the planning team. The vision that the planning team has written for our neighborhood and for our planning team is on the screen, and it reads as follows. Rolston is a vibrant, engaged, safe, and welcoming neighborhood that values collaboration and celebrates diversity. We are a community where healthy relationships, natural spaces, and opportunities flourish. Thank you. So the Neighborhood Action Strategy and the residents planning team has been engaging our neighborhood and the residents in it for a couple years now. The Neighborhood Action Strategy entered in 2012 with a soft entry from our community developer. The staff's early community development efforts began with children in the neighborhood, and there are 2 initiatives we'd specifically like to especially highlight. The first was a photo voice, which was the initiative of our community developer staff. She worked with children from 2 schools in the neighborhood in partnership with City Housing Hamilton and the Immigrants Women's Center. This group of students, this group of children presented to the General Issues Committee, as you can see in a photograph on the bottom of the screen, which was fun for them and which Ryan will highlight a little more later as he talks further about the photo voice. The second initiative we'd like to highlight was the Neighborhood Movie Night, which was held in 2014 and generously sponsored by our councillor, Terry Whitehead. This night was key to the establishment of the planning team. This movie night was an outlet for some residents of the neighborhood to express their interest in their own neighborhood. For others, this sparked an interest in their neighborhood. Together, both groups built and solidified relationships on this evening that led to the establishment of our planning team. It was shortly after that movie night that our planning team began holding meetings in partnership with staff from the Neighborhood Action Strategy. This was about 18 months ago, and since then we've held 18 meetings as a planning team. In the future, we look forward as a planning team to engaging more neighbors, more residents, and a more diverse community within our neighborhood as a planning team. And I'll now hand it off to Monica.
Okay, hello, my name is Monica Mata, and I am the secretary on the planning team. So why do we need a planning team in Rolston? As residents, we say, why not? We feel that every neighborhood needs a planning team. The framework of a planning team allows us to be intentional about protecting our assets and improving our neighborhood. We also realize that we are bigger than our immediate neighbors. The planning team allows us to facilitate and mobilize those in our community for greater good. Together, we are more than the sum of us. Our neighborhood needs are also shown in the social determinants of health report based on the neighborhood profiles. For our neighborhood, 3 key areas emerged. The child poverty rate and female head households show that resources and services need to be available to support all populations in the neighborhood. The planning team helps facilitate conversations with service providers to increase services available to residents. Immigrant and newcomer populations also indicate the need for specific supports and services to be made accessible in our neighborhood to allow these populations to succeed. The high school non-completion rate is a concern for the neighborhood, and we are committed in supporting our fantastic asset of Westmount High School to ensure it meets the needs of youth within the neighborhood to allow them to reach their greatest potential. Our plan incorporates a range of goals, each of which consider the diversity of the neighborhood and are designed to improve the long-term health and hope of all residents in our neighborhood. One of the tools that help develop our goals is our asset map, which we will look at together, and can also be found on page 40 and 41 in our booklets. So our asset map is an exciting snapshot of our neighborhood, which our planning team developed over several meetings. We continue to update the map nearly every meeting, and assets were also identified by residents during our engagement sessions. As you can see, we have many assets, so I'll highlight just a few. In the center of the map is Captain Cornelius Park, with our urban forest, which is a unique feature. This is where we are planning improvements, including the Rolston Path. This location here is the Montcalm City Housing Hamilton Complex, where we hosted our first annual general meeting and barbecue this past August, which was a great success. On the right side of the map is the Yeoville neighborhood, which we have seeded as part of our plan. The Yeoville area brings assets along Upper James, and of particular importance brings neighbor to neighbor, which is a key service in our neighborhood. On our asset map, we've also included the Community Food Center, which is in development by Neighbor to Neighbor, and has a huge importance not only for our neighborhood, but also for other neighborhoods on the mountain. Neighbor to Neighbor desires to do more for the population it supports, and we are grateful for the support of the City of Hamilton with this amazing initiative. Our assets and needs identified in part through this map help to drive our priority themes and goals, which Al will share with us.
Hello, my name is Al Karsten, and I live in Yeoville, and we were adopted by Rolston, and it's been a good adoption. My role jointly with Monica is communication. In response to the needs and assets that Monica presented, 3 areas of priority emerged. This set the stage for our plan and consistent with the statement found on page 42, namely that the Rolston Community Planning Team endeavors to be equitable and inclusive of the diverse populations within Rolston. We acknowledge particularly the need of newcomers, immigrants, diverse spiritual identities, our LGBTQ community, all age groups, as well as the many unique physical, emotional, and development identities that exist within our community. So our first focus was, and it's not in a priority base, but this was one of the 3, improve and enhance the neighborhood features by developing safe, pleasant, and desirable to walk on and play in, as outlined on page 50. Secondly, enhance community cohesiveness and community building by focusing in on building relationship with and between the diverse population that exists. This includes developing a communication plan that will excite and encourage residents, such as newcomers, and those who have been here for a long time, to participate. Also includes having a champion for each project that is being advanced, and this is being advanced jointly with our partners, such as Neighbor to Neighbors, Hamilton Public Library, Neighborhood Leadership Institute, Mohawk College, Neighborhood Action Strategy, Healthy Kids Community Challenge, Recreational Department, schools, and religious organizations. So there's lots of good partners that we have. 3, increase neighborhood health and safety by developing and supporting programs that will advance the area. In part, this is being advanced through the funding that has been made available through Healthy Kids Community Challenge. So those are the 3 areas of focus, and I'll now give it over to Ryan.
Thanks, Al. My name is Ryan Elliott. I'm the treasurer of our group, and I'm a Rolston resident. We've had many early successes in our neighborhood. Some of it predates the Neighborhood Action Strategy for Rolston formally commencing. For example, a photo voice project was initiated with participation from children who live in our neighborhood. Their pictures were displayed during Supercrawl 2013 and 2014 at exhibits for all to see. Interestingly, the issues the children identified as being assets and opportunities mirrored what we found during our 18 months of meeting. Other successes have moved quickly after the formal creation of our team. In 2015, we were able to get all of our parks adopted in the Adopt a Park program offered through the city. We were also able to perform the first formal park cleanup in Captain Cornelius Park, and we were able to use the city's Team Up to Clean Up trailer for garbage bags, gloves, and tools. We had a great turnout to this event, and we will be making this happen regularly. Another success was being able to partner with City Housing Hamilton to co-host a family fun barbecue and our inaugural AGM in the summer. We had a phenomenal turnout of over 500 people to that event. Looking now at our quick wins for 2016, we have two that we're focusing on. First, we're looking forward to working with our Councillor Whitehead to have neighborhood banners installed. One of the first steps towards community building is identifying the community you live in, and having large, attractive signs will help us with that goal. Next, we're looking to implement a neighborhood newsletter. The goal is to provide information about what's happening in our area, events, news, what our group is up to, how to join, and how to get your voice heard. Being able to share the wealth of assets we have, as well as what's in store, is essential to making our neighborhood flourish. I'll hand it over to James now.
Hello, I'm James Mutta, co-chair of the Rolston Planning Team, and I've been part of the planning process since the movie night organized by Councillor Whitehead. I'm really excited about our first project, the Rolston Path. I say path with emphasis because it's going to be so much more than a path. Thanks to our partnerships with Healthy Kids Community Challenge, providing $50,000 in funding, and Neighbourhood Action Strategy with a match of $30,000 in funding. This path will address our three priority themes that Al has shared with us. The really great thing about this project is that the idea of improving Captain Cornelius Park started with the Photo Voice projects done by the kids, and was then reaffirmed by both kids and adults throughout the various engagement sessions. In the planning phase of this project, all neighbourhood schools, a total of 5, will be engaged to give input into the plan for the park development. The Healthy Kids Community Challenge is also supporting the desire of having a soupy in the Rolston neighbourhood parks, which will encourage recreation and community building. On behalf of the planning team, thank you for your time, for listening to our plan, and for your support as we continue on this journey. We look forward to many more years of working with the Neighbourhood Action Strategy and the City of Hamilton. At this time, we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Outstanding. We have Councillor Whitehead, followed by Councillor Partridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, the concept and the need for community and neighborhood development is just come so abundantly clear on the advantages and the asset of bringing people together. And I'm so proud of all those organizations that have come before you and provided outstanding presentations. And I was always curious in how Rolston will stand up. I am so proud of each and every one of you and all those who have been involved in developing the plan. You certainly haven't let me down. You've exceeded the expectations. Edible forest, what an intriguing, interesting idea. A walkway through Cornelius, which I'm so supportive of and will help and assist in each and every way. This area, and I'm really glad, and I want to mention the fact that it made sense to bring Yeovil into the Rolston neighborhood. It's a very small area that is abutted by Upper James and West 5th, Mohawk, and I guess, what's the other crossing street? Lime Ridge, I guess. Is basically Yeovil. So it just made completely a lot of sense, a lost leader, to bring it back into that neighborhood and celebrate some of the assets that Yeovil has as well. This area does have 7 schools. I mean, I don't think there's any other neighborhood that has 7 schools. Now, Mountain Secondary School is slated to be closed. It'll go down to 6. But we have Westview, Westwood, Westmount, Annunciation of the Lord. We have, of course, Mountain Secondary School, and I believe it's the Christian Calvin School on West 5th. So it certainly got an embarrassment of riches from the educational institutions. With that, though, creates problems and challenges, and I hear it over and over again because, unfortunately, we are still a neighborhood or a community of driving our kids to school. And I know that we tried to facilitate, and just think about this, Westmount Rec Center, when we closed down the one that was collapsing and we had to rebuild, we were actually looking at other sites. I am so proud of the fact that the right decision was made to reestablish the Westmount Rec Center in this particular neighborhood because of the needs that have been identified. And not only that, so many things can be built from it. I also remember the movie night. It was a bit of a inclement and rain, if I remember right, and We quickly took a movie night that was supposed to be outside and moved it inside into the gym. Thank God it was available, but we did have a rainy day plan and made it work. And that room was just packed with a lot of the youth from the community, and we still had refreshments being served outside. And it was, in fact, a bit of a genesis in pulling people together. When I look at the banner idea on that, I just think about when I first got elected, I started what was called a Gateway program. And what we did is we started announcing and providing history to the neighborhood of why it's called Rolston, for example, or why it's called Fessington. And then we established gateways into the neighborhood with signs saying, welcome to the, well, this time, in this place would be, welcome to the Rolston neighborhood, please drive carefully. It creates a sense of pride. And we also used movie nights again as a way of bringing community together and getting neighbors to know each other, then in its wake, hoping to leave excellent engagement to people that would want to continue pulling the community together. So some very good information, and I did see something recently on Raise the Hammer, and I want to make it clear that I support Safe Streets, and so do you. And you do identify a number of challenges in the neighborhood, which I've been working on for a while. I will make an announcement right now that we will be posting a number of signs, those radar, solar radar signs. On Lynbrook will be one of them, because that's an area that I get a lot of complaint about speeding. And of course, there's a lot of children going to school and so forth. So we'll be strategically placing a few through the neighborhood, trying to educate those that drive in the neighborhood and have them slow down their speed. So that announcement is fresh and new, and you're hearing it first time today. Look forward to the installation of those signs. Again, thank you for everything you have done, and I want to thank staff, Suzanne and Jocelyn. I mean, I have John, is it Monica, Al, Ryan, James, and certainly all the staff that make this possible and pull this community together. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and thank you all very much. Tremendous amount of work that you've done. And if I heard you clearly through you, Mr. Chairman, you're not done. You're just getting started. So have you got, you've obviously got an immediate plan and a bit of a future plan. Are you looking at kind of 1 to 5 years out? Who would like to answer that? Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, through the chair, I guess this plan has short, medium, and long-term goals, quick wins, and longer-term goals. This plan will be reopened 3 years from now for review and to add new things, and beyond that, it'll be opened up again every 3 to 5 years, and that sort of thing. So in this plan, and hopefully carrying over after it's reopened the next couple of years, some of the longer-term plans will stay in place, yeah.
And thank you for that, and it is so important. And I'd probably safe to say that although we have you folks standing in front of us, there's probably quite a crew of volunteers that are working behind you. Can you speak a little bit about that?
So yeah, through the chair, we did a park cleanup. That was the one where we brought out the most volunteers, I'd say. It was incredible. We had people just come off, we're walking down the street, go, hey, what's going on? And then they'd come in, and it was a great way to engage the neighbors, let them know that we're here, that we're doing this. And yeah, every meeting we have, there's more and more, there's people coming, different people, and it's really exciting that so many different diversity is coming to our meetings, starting to, so yeah.
And that's very encouraging, because you know, from your presentation, you have all age groups by the sounds of it too. You have young people and older folks, and just it's wonderful to see all the different neighborhoods within that catchment area of Rolston coming together. Social media. You're engaging in social media. Do you have a Facebook page?
Through the chair. We do have a Facebook page, Rolston Neighbourhood Facebook page. So that's been going for, I would say, about a year.
Okay.
We haven't really delved into Twitter yet. I'm not really into that yet, but maybe we'll see. We
No
can get
problem.
there. So yeah, just trying to share different things that come up that may be of interest to the neighborhood, but also sharing about our meetings, what's going on, events that are happening, other things that are happening through the city. If we share an article from the spec or something like that, we seem to be starting to definitely generate views or whatever you want to call it. I think we have around 60 likes right now, so that's different service providers have, are following our page, and also residents as well. So
That's excellent, and I'm assuming that the report itself is going to be posted if it isn't posted already on your Facebook page.
Absolutely.
Yeah, terrific, terrific. Well, you know what? I'm very proud of all of you. I just, Ward 15 in Flamborough, I'm the city councillor for there, but we really celebrate when all of our city comes together with so many volunteers and so many representatives who form committees like this, and you really do the groundwork for us. So appreciate it very much. Thank you.
We have Councillor Pearson on the first-time speakers list, followed by myself, and then the second-time speakers list with Councillor Whitehead. Councillor Pearson,
Thank
the
you,
floor is
Mr.
yours.
Chairman. Certainly, I wanted to sit in today, not being committee member, but reading over the staff report yesterday as I was just going through my agendas for the week, and really pleased to see the information of Ward. And as Councillor Partridge raised, it's bringing neighborhoods and communities together. We are faces that seem to pass in the wind as we go in and out of our front doors every day. We don't seem to connect to our neighborhood, and this is what we need to be bringing back in. I'm really pleased that you're here today. I did raise a concern, and Mr. Chairman, I mentioned to you earlier as well, and I know some of my colleagues have, that previous presentations for all of the other groups were made before General Issues Committee through the Committee of the Whole. So I really am sorry that this didn't come to Committee of the Whole, but I understand that in October, an update on on how things are going with all the groups will be coming forward to General Issues Committee. So at that time, we should have a comprehensive report on how well everything is going, and really appreciate it. You know what, if anybody can say anything, is know who your neighbors are, and I'm really proud of you all. Thank you.
Councillor Johnson, if I could please pass the chair over.
Go ahead, Councillor Green.
Thank you very much. So a few things. First, as you know, 4 priority neighborhoods, hubs in Ward 3, and I have to say that I'm so proud of Laura Ryan and the work that she's doing as a community developer. And I got to tell you, I have these and I've gone through them all. This is substantive work in terms of what you've been able to accomplish in such a short period of time. Hats off to you and your entire community, because I feel like every time we do this, we do it a little bit better. And the considerations that you have given in this document, I hope will be the further groundwork for future neighborhoods. I say that and look over at Suzanne, who's going, oh my gosh. Because it is so valuable. And if I could just for a moment, Councillor Johnson, through you, share that I grew up 92 Mohawk Road East in between Upper James and Upper Wellington, and attended Westview Middle School. Shout out to the Wolverines. Captain Cornelius Park was always kind of a mystical place for kids growing up, and I don't think I've appreciated it fully until now, that in our past terms of council, in the wisdom to be able to keep that little bit of urban space in a concrete jungle, I know for myself growing up, was so important, and it's something that I don't think I fully appreciated until later on in life. So to see this project married with that special park, as well as a community amenity for the Catholic school, St. Jerome's up the hill, City Housing Hamilton, what a mixed income neighborhood with such diversity. So to see all that embraced today in this action plan is really a testament to the work that's being done at all levels, both through the community, through our community development workers, and supported by our staff. So hats off to you guys. Absolutely incredible. And also great to see Councillor Whitehead working so closely alongside, because really community development work is messy work, and the fact that you guys have gotten this done in 18 months is amazing. So from an asset-based approach, awesome, awesome, awesome work. And as you know, if you ever want to come down to John, my good friend John, is always down, and we get lots of chances to talk. So maybe there's some opportunity between the hubs where we can have a more fuller conversation on how we can advance our own projects, because we have 3 full-fledged newspapers in our ward, like full, fold-out newspapers that I think we would love to share with you guys in terms of where you want to go with your newsletter. So those are my comments. Absolutely incredible. On the second, Councillor Johnson, if
Yes, Councillor Green, I'll give you the chair back.
thank you for giving me back the chair. For those that are watching, what the chair means is that we don't have the person controlling the meeting take liberties with it. So we pass it off and then take it back so that we can keep decorum and make sure that everything always goes through somebody rather than act them. Not for the purpose of today, because you guys are great. On the second time speakers list, we have Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you. I want to get James, because, I mean, it's just not about the adults you see in front of you. It's about the many people behind you. But there's another interesting demographic that's reflected here that we didn't introduce. And so I thought I'd give James an opportunity to introduce our young Rolston son.
Through the speaker. This is my son, Alex. He and his two sisters have attended every single meeting that we've had.
Amazing.
So, Mr. Chair, I wanted to highlight that because it really is about the future and it is about the youth, and it's great to see that, James, that you and your son and your daughter has been attending these meetings, and that the civic engagement and information sharing with our youth through this process is just unimaginable what you garner from that. So thank you for that. I wanted to thank Alex for participating directly. And I also want to recognize Neighbour to Neighbour, who are great partners. In fact, I never realized it because I knew they were moving their community kitchen to the Lime Ridge location. But with Yeovil being brought in, I guess it's a double hit because their central of operation is in Yeovil. So we've captured Neighbour to Neighbour very well. I know they're great community partners, and I want to recognize their engagement in this as well. So thank you.
Before we close off, I'll put it through you, James, so as not to put your son on the spot. But Alex, if there's anything at all you'd like to say, I'd be happy to hear it. If not, that's cool too. But if you'd like, the mic's there if you wanted just to maybe share what you liked about it. No? Okay. Are you excited about the path? Yeah? Do you like the barbecues? What's your favorite spot? What's your favorite part about this whole organizing thing? Got it.
Through the chair. It was one of Alex's ideas to make the path better in Captain Cornelius. So he was one of the key people in bringing that up.
And what will the path look like?
We're still working on that, but right now there's a very rustic sort of path going through a forest area, and it'll incorporate hopefully a whole bunch of things that will increase both safety and accessibility for the community.
So through you and on that to Alex. Alex, your idea will make that park more accessible to people who might not. And maybe there are people who have mobility issues or seniors or people like that. So excellent job, buddy. You did great. Awesome. So we have a motion to approve by Councillor Whitehead, seconded by Councillor Johnson. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Congratulations, Rolston. Thank you so much. You're certainly welcome to stick around. We also recognize that the parking is sometimes an issue. Awesome. So we are on to discussion items. Item 8.1, it's the recommendation report for the Ontario Works Caseload Contingency Plan. Given the nature of the report, I'm happy to ask staff just to give a bit of an update. I believe so, yes. Oh, if we'd like, we can do a motion to approve by Councillor Whitehead, seconded by Councillor Jackson. All those in favor, carried, just to make it official. So we'll allow a couple seconds for folks to get back to their cars. Alex, hopefully you have the day off the rest of the day. Take it off, just tell them that the chair said so, you're good. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Just a couple more seconds here to let folks file out. Okay, we have item 8.1 is the recommendation report for Ontario Works Caseload Contingency Plan.
Through you, Mr. Chair, committee will remember that during the heights of the recession, we came forward with...
If you could even just maybe ask that they kindly move to the further part of the forecourt. Lots of excitement. We're okay for the presentation, even though we're assuming they'll be back in here in a second. Please proceed. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, committee will remember that during the heights of the recession, beginning in 2008, we came forward with a series of reports, I think 5 in total, asking for council support to hire some additional staff in order that we could maintain an acceptable caseload to case manager ratio. What we did, we committed to come back to council and reduce staff as that caseload ratio decreased. However, at about the same point in time, SAMS hit us, and the caseload ratio, it did decrease, but not to the point where we wanted it to. Plus, given the capacity of staff to manage the new system, we just didn't feel it was prudent to reduce the staff to what we had originally committed. In the midst of all of that, I started the Ontario Works program review. So what I'm asking committee to do is to allow me to continue with those additional staff until the end of December. The money is in the reserve. That's what we had the funding there for, was to fund this and other contingency within the Ontario Works program. Because I'm just not at a point yet where I would feel comfortable saying I don't need those staff. And as a matter of fact, one of the reasons that I undertook the review was that if I was not prepared to ask committee for an enhancement unless I could demonstrate that we'd have turned over every leaf that we've got, maybe hopefully find some savings to keep the additional staff if we do indeed need them. So this is to ask for our council to continue with the funding until the end of December. By that time, I should be back in front of committee with an answer in terms of whether I found the money for the staff or not.
If I could pass the chair over to Councillor Jackson. Thank you, Councillor Jackson. So just to be clear, this is part of the ongoing SAMS saga. Is this going to be captured in the overall costs of this program inefficiency? Is this something that we're going to be articulating and communicating to the province as part of our increased cost of service due to their system's failure?
Through the chair, if I can just step in for a moment, we actually don't have quorum. I just realized that.
As long as we're not passing anything, we're okay.
Fair enough.
I'm allowing the conversation to carry on, Denis, but thank you for the caution.
It's good.
Carry
Good
on,
catch.
Councillor Green.
Good catch.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we've not considered these staff in terms of costing for SAMS because it was mainly due to the recession that caused the increase in the caseload. So no, we haven't included the cost in the contingent in the SAMS costing reports. To my knowledge, we haven't. No.
But am I correct to hear in your presentation that much of the pressure and the need to continue on this contingency has been exacerbated by SAMS?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's been exacerbated by SAMS, but I wouldn't say it's the primary cause of why I asked to keep the people so that I could do the OW program review. That was the main reasons why I kept them on beyond the date that I committed originally to council, plus the fact that the caseload didn't get to where I thought it would. But those two are the biggest reasons.
Thank you, Joanne. Councillor Green.
Councillor Jackson, through you. And so we're to understand that the province in this review, we might be looking at a change in the system, and so we need this staff to follow that through and finish up that report. Then is that how we're to understand it?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, what I've committed, and I actually just sent out an email to all staff in Ontario Works, is that I'll be back in front of committee at the April the 25th meeting to go over the results of the program review and the recommendations and the steps that I'll be pursuing.
And through you, Councillor Jackson, this is anticipated to the end of this calendar year, is that correct?
Joanne?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
So then through you, Councillor Jackson, to General Manager Priel, you're confident that at the end of this year, we'll have had a full report back on the Ontario Works review, and at that which time recommendations will be brought forward to either make some of those positions permanent and or have reductions in that contingency group.
Joanne?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. I hope to have all the information in front of you by April the 25th.
Okay. Satisfied then that this isn't an additional pressure to the levy, that it's coming out of a reserve, and that it has a finite time, I'm certainly willing to support that motion.
Back to you, Councillor Green, with the chair, and I believe you now have quorum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any additional questions on this particular item 8.2? Seeing as though there are none, item 8.1. Seeing as though there are no further questions, may I please have a motion to approve the recommendations respecting item 8.1? Moved by Councillor Whitehead, seconded by Councillor Johnson. All those in favor? Carried. On to item 8.2. It is a report regarding the roster for affordable housing development. May we please have a staff update on that for the purpose of conversation today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in the January ECS meeting, staff were directed to roster for nonprofit and private developers to be qualified to develop new affordable housing to take advantage of funding opportunities that may arise in the coming months and potentially years. So we, as staff, looked at this matter. We consulted with procurement. We consulted with planning and economic development. And the report before you basically highlights that the best approach in terms of developing such a roster is to marry it with the process that we're undertaking already, which is we will be developing a request for proposals for new rental housing, affordable housing construction as part of the Investment in Affordable Housing Extension Program, and we're hoping to launch that request for proposals in the spring, in May of this year. That RFP process, which we've run in the past, does have a qualification element to the scoring and evaluation, and we can bump that up in terms of looking at things like qualification, experience of the proponents, courage and long-term viability, and use that process as a sort of pre-qualification in order to have that roster that can service us for the current RFP as well as for potential future funding opportunities.
I do have a couple of questions. Are there any other questions before I pass the chair? Seeing as that there are none, may I please pass the chair to... May I please pass... Did you have a question? Okay, thank you. Councillor Johnson, through you. So I'm curious as to where does this process fit into our other efforts? I know Councillor Collins and others have been working at creating a stockpile or a list of city-owned assets that might be made available. Has there been any considerations with that regard in terms of where some of this might fit in terms of partnerships with social housing providers?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, there's absolutely potential fit for that. This is arranging the tools in our arsenal, if you affordable housing funding opportunities, and so this is the proponent side of things, but there's also obviously the land component and then the funding capital component. So the degree that we can have these elements fit together puts us in a better position to be able to respond to those opportunities.
So through you, Mr. Vice Chair, is there a formal direction that would need to come in terms of just being ready as a committee to being prepared for potential upper levels of government shovel-ready projects, just to be open and in that conversation? Or is this something that's already happening at the homelessness strategy that the committee that you guys have, the housing committee that you have?
Through Mr. Chair, I think we've got the motions in place that we need to, in terms of all those pieces of work. I think it's going to be up to staff to make sure that we bring those, look forward to those opportunities based on the 3 or 4 other motions that have come forward. So this is a critical piece to be able to have proponents that can deliver, that you'll pre-approve those proponent so that when there's opportunities that come up, whether it's the sale of city housing, city-owned land, or money from the federal, provincial level of government, that we'd be ready to go.
And so I guess the last question, March 14th or so, the province is going to be coming out with their long-term housing strategy. This puts us in position to be ready for that, coupled with the federal budget, through you, Mr. Vice Chair, to be positioned to be most creative to get the best bang for the buck, as it were.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. And on the affordable housing piece of it, that this gives us another tool to be ready to take advantage of those opportunities.
Excellent. I'm satisfied with those questions. Thank you very much for your work on this. I know certainly a lot has gone into that, and hopefully will lead the way into future policy discussions and opportunities around that file.
I'll give the chair back.
Thank you. Councillor Collins, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and I just want to confirm through you to David. David, this is the same process basically that we've used in the past in terms of the application process for the IAH monies. This looks like it's mirroring what we've done in the past for past budget years, where the same funds or a little bit more has been made available to housing providers in the city.
Through you, Mr. Chair, essentially that's correct, yes. Although we're enhancing it, we're looking at how we can make it a more robust pre-qualification process to encompass both the proposal call for the dollars that we have before us right now, as well as that roster on a go-forward basis. So there's a bit more enhancement to it, but it's essentially using the same tool to do that.
Okay. I did notice that on the third of 4 pages that there's a reference to the DC reserve, and I know that wearing my other hat for City Housing Hamilton, we've certainly had some discussion about utilizing that reserve as a funding source for some of the issues that we're dealing with. When do we make the determination as to whether or not those monies are part of the IAH funding? Is that something that this committee and council will determine? I thought I heard you say in May, when it's back here for final approval, or does that happen at a later date?
So through you, Mr. Chair, we're looking at releasing the RFP ideally April, probably May in terms of the time frame. It'd probably be about a month to 6 weeks after that, after we review and evaluate, that we would bring recommendations back to this committee and council in terms of recommendations for funding using the dollars. And right now we're releasing it under the IAH extension program. However, if there are sufficient proposals that merit our consideration, the city's consideration, there could be a recommendation, and council could, committee and council could determine whether they want to use additional dollars, such as the DC reserve. Aside from that process, we're in the process of developing some recommendations to bring forward to committee and council around incentives. And in terms of the city assets, the DC reserve is one source for incentives that we could use. So again, we would bring that to committee and council. It ultimately would be committee and council's decision in terms of the use of those dollars.
Sorry, just to be clear, we'll determine at another meeting whether or not the DCs are eligible for the funding call, or will that just be part of the funding call? I just want to be clear. I didn't catch that last part there.
So at this point, we haven't really determined whether we would include the DCs as part of the funding call. I think we'd like some flexibility to see what comes in through the request for proposals, and then based on the merits of the projects, make recommendations forward in terms of which one should get funded. The package of incentives that staff are working on, we would like to bring forward is for council's consideration in terms of incentivizing additional affordable housing through things that the city could offer. So we already have an opportunity to waive development charges as an example, but the only other pot of funding that we have at this point in time is the DC reserve. So that would be discussed in that report that would come forward as well.
And will that report beat the call for proposal report, or will it come after?
So through you, Mr. Chair, there would be two separate reports, but the timing in terms of bringing them forward would be the same.
Okay. Those are the questions I had. Thank you.
Great line of questions. Are there any other questions regarding this file? Item 8.2. Seeing as that there are no further questions, may I please have a motion to receive item 8.2, moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Johnson. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, excellent. On to motions. We are now on to item 9.1, which is the City Housing Hamilton request for 555 Queenston Road area floor replacement. We have, we have Councillor Collins, followed by Councillor Jackson, followed by Councillor Whitehead.
I do need a motion. Yeah, I do need a mover and a seconder in Councillor Marula's absence.
Oh, unfortunately, I forgot that you were not on the committee, and at this point in time, we do not have quorum to pass that. Oh, I thought it was 5. Excellent. Thank you very much.
So
moved by Councillor
I'll use Councillor Jackson and
seconded by Councillor Whitehead. Johnson?
You can do the next one.
Thank you. Thirded? Okay. Are you...
So if I could speak to the issue that now that it's been put on the floor, I did receive a petition from the seniors at 555 Queenston. I have over 100 signatures, a very large City Housing Hamilton building. And of course, their property, like many others, is battling our pest issues that we have with not just bed bugs, but cockroaches. And the flooring in 555 Queenston is fairly old. It is carpets. And of course, for those of us who've been involved with this issue, it facilitates the spread of pests to other units in the building. And so their request is to fund the replacement of the carpets with new modern flooring. And I have offered up using my area rating fund to help the residents who live at that location.
Outstanding. I know, are there any other speakers on this? Well, just anecdotally, I know that the changes that were made at 30 Sanford had tremendous impact on pest reduction and overall presentation of the whole building. So fantastic motion. Yes, agreed. Thank you, Councillor Collins. Moved by Jackson, seconded by Whitehead. All those in favor? Carried. Outstanding. We now have the added item 10.1 regarding the motion respecting Pickleball Canada's proposal.
Yes, and I did, I had asked the clerk whether or not this could be included as correspondence at the beginning, but procedurally it's best to be included as part of the motion. So I would ask that this be distributed to members of the committee and subsequently council. And it's essentially Pickleball Hamilton has asked for our staff and certainly our council to look for a location within the municipality for them. And I have had discussions with them about Confederation Park. I believe that there is room within the sports complex that has been planned there. So I would ask that this correspondence and the motion that is in front of committee be approved and forwarded to staff for further consideration.
That information should be before you.
Yes, and so if we can have do we need a notice of motion? Do we need a motion to waive the rules?
You'll have to waive the rules, yes.
Moved by Whitehead, seconded by Johnson to waive the rules respecting item 10.1, the pickleball motion. All those in favor? Carried. And now on to the motion. We would have Councillor Marula. Feel free to introduce your motion,
It's
sir.
moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Jackson, and it's before you accordingly.
And we have Councillor Whitehead.
So I certainly support it. It is a growing activity for seniors. And I know the mountain has a huge population of seniors. We just built a multi-use facility at Shadok. So I wouldn't mind if it's not too costly as a westernly mountain type thing to meet the growing senior population. Whether it would be adaptable to pickleball on any given day or evening. So if we can at least assess that, I think we can work it within the schedule of the bocce program that's currently there. It is a multi-use facility, and I like to use it as a multi-use facility. So if that's possible, it would be great.
So would you, or through you, to the mover, there has been a request around adding a report back on the possibility of utilizing as well as, or either or, just for clarity. Yep. Awesome. So we have the motion on the floor as presented with the further direction for pickleball at the bocce courts. Pickled bocce. All those in favor? Carried. All those opposed? Reserve the same right. We have now, oh, that was the correspondence. Okay. General information, item 11.1, amendments to the Community Emergency Services Outstanding Business List. May I please have a motion to remove item L, support for Kingston's resolution regarding the basic income guarantee. Moved by Johnson, seconded by Marula. All those in favor? Carried. On item 13, may I please have a motion to adjourn? Oh.
Through the chair, if I may, there's just one other item on the general information. It's refer item B, Hamilton Living Wage, to the General Issues Committee.
Great
So there are two parts to that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clerk. I appreciate that. Certainly something I'm very interested in. So, to move it to the GIC, I do have sorry, did you have a question, Councillor Whitehead? What was that? I'm sorry, yes, but please, if you please could share, please. Could you please turn on your microphone?
Minister Ted McMeekin made an announcement at Mohawk College this morning at 8:45 a.m. Regarding a new program that's mapping out and providing greater access to Indigenous or Aboriginal people. I can't remember the exact amount of dollars, but the fact that there's a recognition there's a gap. I am so proud of the fact that they come forward and are providing these opportunity for what I feel people in a certain sector of the population has been left behind. So I want to, when kudos need to be given, I want to make it publicly that I love the leadership on this particular file, and I want to thank the Minister for providing the funding to Mohawk College, because I can't think of a better institution to implement that program. Thank you.
Okay. I appreciate that information, but we do have now regarding item B, which is the Hamilton Living Wage. If I could just ask the question, pass the chair over to Johnson, through you, Councillor Johnson, just with regards to this GIC. When are we to expect this report to the GIC committee? Because long talked about conversation, lots of people in the community very interested in this, myself included. When can we expect this?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll be bringing it to the June GIC.
June. And the purpose being acknowledging the purpose of bringing it to GIC? Sorry, no. The delay, as I'm to understand, just through you to put on the record today, the changing number, the changing economy have changed some of the formulas. That's right. So originally when the motion came forward to bring living wage, the living wage was, well, and still is currently $14.95, but the Hamilton Roundtable on Poverty Reduction is looking, they have calculated an updated wage that hasn't been released yet. It's likely in the neighborhood of $16.15. I don't want to, say that is exactly what it will be, but it will be in that neighborhood. So that will required HR to go back and relook at their numbers. So that's the reason it's delayed, and we'll be bringing both sets of numbers in the June report. Thank you very much, Councillor Johnson, through you. So you've been working with Tom and those folks and trying to get this ironed out, so when we have the conversation, we have all the information. That's just very important to have on the record. Some folks out there are suggesting we're dragging our heels, but it's obviously a changing landscape, so I appreciate that. Councillor Johnson, Councillor Jackson. I'm waiting for him to give it to me. The chair, thank you very much. Okay, I now have the chair, Councillor Jackson.
So, Mr. Chairman, through you to staff, you're bringing back the report on the living wage in what form? Like for the public sector, for the municipality, the private sector? Because I heard some concerns about a year ago when I think first Joanne embarked upon this, that if you're delving into the private sector with living wage, I can understand large businesses, but if you're talking about small and some mid-sized businesses, then I have a real concern in terms of impact on possible employment if you're going to mandate a living wage. So I just need to know, Mr. Chairman, I've been consistent on this as a former small business operator. I'm just concerned, and I answered even during the municipal election when some questionnaires came out that my main concern was for small and some mid-sized businesses. So, Mr. Chairman, through to Suzanne for a comment, then please.
Yes. Through you, Mr. Chair, the report coming in June will focus solely on the City of Hamilton and the implications of living wage changes for the City of Hamilton.
Perfect. Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I don't know that we have any jurisdiction over the private sector with that regard, except for just recommending it one way or another. We have Councillor Marula.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On that point, did we not pursue the issue and formally 2004, 2005, and had a report come back accordingly? So my point is, there was a motion that I know that I brought forward back in 2004. Staff reported, particularly surrounding part-time employees, and we had a plan in place, I thought, to address the issue. Joanne, could you elaborate on that?
So through you, Mr. Chair, and this is, why we're all anxious to bring this forward, because we've been working on it for a long time. Councillor Jackson will remember that we did have a conversation about, where we were at a year or two ago in terms of what the living wage should be. And clearly we are a living wage employer. Where we're not is for our part-time and casual employees is the issue. Then we had to talk to the library because of pay equity legislation, whatever we do to increase, so does the library. So there are some significant cost implications that we have to consider in terms of how we bring and when we bring forward those budget implications to committee. And in the midst of all of that, the recalculation, as Suzanne said, the living wage in the community. So now it meant that we had to go back and recalculate. So it's been a long process, I have to say, but it's about when we were ready to bring it forward from a number of different perspectives. And the issue, when we did bring it forward, there was we worked to get other employers in the city on board with us as well. So there was other living wage employers, so that it was a partnership and a collaborative, so that we weren't moving ahead in the absence of others. So it was sort of this. So there's been some other big employers and small that have come forward with a living wage. And gradually we've gotten there to where the cost is not going to be as significant for us as we had thought it was. But then, like Suzanne said, they've going to increase the living wage. But it's been a long time.
Okay, yeah, it's 12 years ago, because I believe it was the spring of 2004. But I think we should take those reports, have those forwarded to us again, to see what we have done already formally to date, how far we have moved the yardsticks. But also, I believe at the time, to you, Mr. Chairman, there was a significant amount of discussion about bringing the private sector on board as well.
So through you, Mr. Chair, that's still on the agenda. It's just not going to be in this report, but clearly the next report is going to talk about procurement and the policy levers that we have within the procurement part of our business to encourage those employers to provide a living wage. And we're just looking at options so that it's not us with a heavy hand, but more of a carrot. And I think that's good advice. So, Suzanne, we come forward in the June, because we have made steps, because there was some positions, for instance, they were outside the union. They've now been brought into the union, so their wages were automatically increased as a result of that. So Jack did an admin review in REC where he got rid of a lot of part-time positions and made them permanent, so that they're good paying living wage jobs. So we have made some improvements over the years, but yes. And Councillor Green, would say that we're hearing from the community, like, what the heck, how come it's taking you so long? So we'll bring back the reports and demonstrate what we've done in the meantime, the reports that we've brought forward, the progress that we've continued to make.
Okay, and if you can include the original motion, that would be great, because if my memory serves me correctly, and I am getting old, I specifically recall that the report came back, the general levy impact was what scared everybody away from moving forward too radically. So we had two options. One, to incrementally phase in over a period of time, or to radically do it, which would have been, I can't remember the number that was identified, but it would have been, let's say, 10% increase in taxes or something that everybody just was aghast about. So I think what we do need is just a synopsis of where we were, how far we've come, and where we're headed in order to basically deal with the issue in its entirety. Because I know a lot of the work's already been done, but I don't think we've communicated it effectively enough. And so if we could have that sent to us, or maybe perhaps even through a motion through you, Mr. Chairman, have that included as a report for the next, when are you planning on doing this, Joanne?
June.
In June. There's going to be two reports. The one in June is going to talk about we'll bring forward a couple of options in terms of what the potential increases are, and how you want to how council wants to implement it in terms of an incremental approach or all at once. And so that will be the first report. Look for your direction. The second report, then, if council wants us to further, that will come forward in time for the 2017 budget discussions. But in the meantime, if you would like us to send out a package of information in terms of the original motion and all of a compendium of reports, we can do that with an information update, not a formal council report, but we can do an information update further to the discussion we had today, bring all council into line with where we're going and attach the history.
Okay, that'll be helpful.
Okay.
Because that'll, even for myself, to look back and put it in perspective. One last thing, through you, Mr. Chairman, how many employees do we have presently that would fall below that living wage number?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't have it. I mean, the costs are going to be potentially, what are they, Suzanne? Depends on what it is, but it's $1 million. $1 million between us and the library, and I don't know, that I don't think is the figure that if it's at the new living wage rate, because it becomes then a bigger issue because you have to look at compression with that rate, and then it's not just those people, but it's other staff you got to bring up because you got a compression issue. So HR is currently costing out the $14.95 plus the proposed, what the total costs are, and then based on that, we'll bring back that information.
Okay.
And I don't know, but there are people like the school crossing guards, they're...
Right. If I could, maybe through a motion, what I'd like to do is, maybe I should formally do this, that A, we receive an update to formally give us the history or synopsis surrounding the issue. Secondly, how many employees directly fall into the category below the living wage. Did you want to say something then?
Yeah, I just want to say that this agenda item is essentially just for it to be referred to the General Issues Committee. So I don't know if informal direction would be better or if you'd prefer to have it done by way of motion, but procedurally I think it'd be best to have it done either informally or at GIC.
Well, maybe we can refer to GIC, the motion then? Yeah. But yeah, the motion we can refer, but I'd prefer to have the motion. So about the synopsis, also the number of employees that would fall into that category and what the financial impact would be. But also, I think, based on my memory again, the impact was based on a procurement process and how that would play a role in increasing our general levy impact. So, for instance, every RFP that we bring out, in every contract, we would specify in the RFP that their employees must be paid that living wage. That's what was the crux of the significant backlash that we received. Because to truly do it properly, that's the road we need to take. So it's one thing, we should deal with our employees today, but the real issue is when we're contracting out, it should be spelled out in the contract that no one that directly or indirectly is being paid by the city should fall below that living wage number. And I think that's where I received a great deal of resistance, and I believe even a defeated motion, to be honest. So if we can have just that history surrounding that, that would be helpful, and then where we're headed from here. I'm more than willing to reconfirm the original motion from 04 at any time. So once we do receive that, I'll review it and move it accordingly as well, again. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
So, Councilor Moreno, is that okay to be a notice of motion referred to, or you want?
I think we need to defer to GIC, and I'll provide it as a notice for GIC to assist in Denny's request.
So on the referral item, because we could certainly continue to talk about living wage, I would love to do so. Do we have any other comments on the referral item? Councillor Whitehead, the floor is yours.
Just for clarification, I mean, traditionally, full-time wages are always higher than part-time wages. I don't know how historically that is. So I'm trying to understand if that has always been the practice. Are we suggesting then that livable wage doesn't disembark the difference between a part-time, understanding there's a balance to be struck to reasonable employment? Do we make any distinguishment? Do we distinguish the role of part-time versus full-time and whether they should be at the same level?
We are still on the referral, but if you'd like additional information through staff, I know that because they're going to
Yeah, they don't have to give it down. Actually,
Okay.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at, because again, part-time job is never paid the same wages as a full-time job. So when we're looking at livable wages, are we expecting, I thought the livable wage was being calculated on a full-time type salary, and understanding that there's small businesses that need to survive, are we now applying the livable wage on work?
Safe to say that these aspects will be covered off in the June report? Or can we take this as a soft direction if that's...
What I just, through you, Mr. Chair, what I just said to Suzanne, actually, they're very good questions because that'll help us build the information into the report that's coming forward in June. It's going to GIC because it's a competition issue. It's in city managers, not community service legwork, but really, it's not this. We're about will into the report.
That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Yeah.
Outstanding. And on that note, I think it is worth noting to hats off to you and your crew for taking yet again another committee, which could have been up in AF and of other committees, but I know that my confidence is in you and your staff to be able to make sure we get the full picture cost-benefit analysis. So on that, may I please have a motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Whitehead, seconded by Councillor Johnson. All those in favor? Well done. Carried. Excellent staff. Thank you very much to everybody